here is something that I was watching live, and I could not believe it was happening. The Jaguars beat the Colts 26-11 in Week 18 of the NFL season. So the Colts went 9-8, and they did not make the playoffs. They missed the playoffs. What? They had a crazy year. The Colts started 1-4. They almost recovered. I thought Indy was going to make a playoff push. And clearly they had a ton of talent. Indy had more Pro Bowlers than any other team in the NFL this year. And all they had to do to make the playoffs was beat the, at the time, 2-14 Jacksonville Jaguars, and they could not make it happen. Can you imagine that? You're like, hey, all you got to do to make the playoffs is beat the Jaguars, who are so bad, they've had the number 1 overall pick now 2 years in a row. They got it again. By the way, congrats to the Jaguars, number 1 overall pick again. And, you know, it was a roller coaster watching Indy this year. And watching them lose kind of just made me feel like all of that was for nothing. Like the entire year I was so invested. Like, oh, they're going to come back. They're oh my gosh. Like I just remember this I was invested. I was almost a Colts fan. I was like right on the edge of like, man, like I really, really want to see this team win and do well. And for them to not make the playoffs was just, again, that feeling of like, really? That entire year, that journey, that roller coaster led us nowhere. All right, then. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that. That's horrible and weird. Listen to this. In the final 7 games, Indy dominated Buffalo, a playoff team. They beat Houston 31-0. They lost to Tampa. I can live with that. They lost to Tampa by 7 points. Then they beat 2 other playoff teams, the Patriots and the Cardinals. They lost in the final 2 games, though, to the Raiders, who were one of the weaker playoff teams, and then the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, the Jaguars literally have the number 1 overall pick in the NFL. They're the worst team in football, and Indy could not beat them. And how can you not point the finger at the Colts quarterback, Carson Wentz? This is a game where you got the playoffs on the line. You got to step up. You got to play well. Carson Wentz had to deliver in this moment. And he didn't just have to win. He had to have a good game. I actually think I could have, if Carson has a great game, throws for like 4 touchdowns, 400 yards, and is awesome, no turnovers. I'm like, well, look, he did everything he could. He didn't do everything he could. Carson had a bad game, and they lost. Indy traded a first-round pick and a third-round pick to get him. And Carson was 17 for 29, 185 yards, 1 touchdown with 2 turnovers, an interception and a fumble. By the way, a bad interception where you're like, bro, what are you doing? That's not a good, there's nothing open. What's happening there? And even more crazy is Carson Wentz got outplayed by a rookie quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars rookie. By the way, what a great way to end the year for the Jaguars. The Jaguars, here's what happened to them at the end of the year. Not only did they secure the number 1 overall pick, they did it while winning. They beat a division rival, kept them out of a playoff appearance, and their rookie quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, had maybe his best game of his NFL career so far. He ended the year on a high note. Trevor was 23 for 32, 223 yards, 2 touchdown passes, 0 turnovers. Again, the rookie, Trevor Lawrence, outplayed Carson Wentz on Sunday. Bro, that can't happen. Carson Wentz cannot allow a rookie quarterback to outplay him in a must-win playoff scenario. It's bad. And by the way, Trevor Lawrence had a really sweet touchdown, 3rd and goal, high snap, bad snap. He avoids a sack. He's rolling right, finds Marvin Jones in the end zone for a touchdown. He made throw after throw after. I remember watching like, that's a nice throw. That's a nice throw. I watched a lot of really good stuff from Trevor Lawrence on Sunday, and that's exciting. But Carson had a bad interception, a fumble that I think he was actually trying to throw the ball forward, like underhand, and it got ruled a fumble. And it's a gray area there. You're kind of trying to understand intent when it looked like a fumble, but it also looked like you could have been trying to throw it forward. Even more damning, though, is the Colts got stopped on 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. They couldn't run it in. And I'm glad they tried to run it. You got Jonathan Taylor, the best running back in the league. You want to run the ball 4th and 1 of the 1-yard line, but you got stopped. And I guess you don't deserve to win if you can't convert on 4th and inches 4th and 1 with your offensive line in that situation. The Jaguars led this game 26-3 with 8 minutes left. Like, it's not like a game was like, oh, the Jaguars pulled away a little bit at the end. No, they dominated this game. The Colts got dominated by Jacksonville. All right. And I want to look back to that Carson Wentz trade because Philly got a first-round pick and a third-round pick. And by the way, Philly's going to have 3 first-round picks in the upcoming NFL draft. And the Eagles made a playoff appearance. The Colts, no first-round picks next year. No playoffs, nothing. Just a weird middle-of-the-road record and a very, very disappointing end to the year. It's not over. I don't want to be all doomsday for the Colts. I mean, it's year 1 with Carson Wentz. They'll be hopefully back and better next year. The year was rough. They had injuries and all kinds of stuff went wrong. They had, man, oh man. The Rona affected this season for sure. They had players who missed games because of that too. But that's an excuse you can make for literally every NFL team. The bottom line is that the Colts are still feeling the effect of Andrew Luck retiring early. They scrambled. When he retired early, they're like, we'll go with Jacoby Brissett, and then they had a year with Phillip Rivers, and now we're a third year in a row with a new quarterback, Carson Wentz, and it was really disappointing because I thought that, like, unquestionably, the Colts had finally found their franchise quarterback, and I still think Carson is that guy, but I have some doubt that's been cast on that, and a lot of people, like in my DMs on Patreon, they're all saying, like, well, Carson Wentz it's a Super Bowl team, the Colts have, but Carson Wentz is not a Super Bowl quarterback. That's not good. Now, Carson Wentz made some amazing plays this year. He did some good stuff. I'm not trying to hate on Carson. There was a brief period where I thought Carson was the only, like, really good player on the Colts. I mean, early on in the year, they were 1-4. He was actually playing well. But as a team got better and they needed him, he didn't step up. And, man, the Colts are better than a 9-8 record for sure. That's the bottom line. They did not make the playoffs. Again, Rona impacted stuff. Injuries definitely impacted how the year went. But the biggest thing that affected this football team is that in the biggest game of the year, you got to win against Jacksonville. Your starting quarterback has a bad game. And again, if he had a bad game, or if he had a good game, but they lost, I would have said, well, look, Carson did everything he could. But I can't even say that. It's just very, very, if you're a Colts fan, I'm sorry, man. I feel very disappointed for you guys. It was brutal. It was rough. And, I mean, how do you live with losing to the Jaguars and as a result do not make the playoffs because you can't beat Jacksonville? It's like, they won 3 games all year. Oh, it's painful, and I just I don't know. I'm not a Colts fan, but I felt like a Colts fan a lot of times this year. I was like I'm like on the edge of I'm crossing a line where I'm like I really am rooting for this football team. Painful. It was a painful loss to watch.